Hi everybody, welcome to today's edition of Adventure is Out There. Today we are going to talk about character creation. Any RPG system, we're not going to talk about mechanics because that's very specific in terms of the system that you're going to use, and I would do another video on that with some of the ones that I play. But tonight, or this afternoon I guess, I want to talk about character creation. Where do you begin? Some people like to begin with the mechanics. They like to begin with rolling their stats, choosing their skills, all of that stuff. Not me. I like to begin my journey into a character with a concept. Sometimes that concept will begin with the race or the class, or even just what role I want to be a part of in terms of the party. So, I like to start with that. So basically, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want my role to be in the party? Do I want to be the person who's jumping into the fray, who's like protecting everybody? Do I want to be right up in there, melee in combat all the time? Do I want to be someone who rushes in? Do I want to be someone who kind of stays it to the back and is like, whoa, what's going on here, guys? And is like helping people out with buffs and with making people stronger? Maybe do I want to be a healer? Do I want to be someone who sits at the back and fires arrows? Do I want to be someone who's good with nature? Do I want to be someone who is good with magic? Do I want to be a bookworm? Do I want to be someone who is a vagabond? The archetypes and story of the character for me is usually where I start when I'm thinking about creating one. So some of the simple questions, once you sort of get an idea of what you want to be in terms of your role in the party, the next step for me is deciding the character's story. What have they been doing before they got to this point, before they got to the game? So have I been a cook? For example, do I run a business? Do I what's my deal? So I have kind of a list, a mental checklist, if you will, of like about 4 questions, which is totally simple, that I ask myself every time I am going to build a character. So the first question that I ask myself is, where was I born? So what's my character's is kind of framing the childhood experience for my character. So what was my childhood experience? So basically, where was I born? Did my character come from a big city? Did they come from a small town? Did they come from a like ranger who lived in the woods all by himself? Am I an orphan? Do I have siblings? Do I have a big family? Do I have a small family? Do I have parents? Are any and all of those people still alive? Am I older? Do I have a family of my own? Do I have a wife? Do I have children? All of those sorts of questions are questions that I ask myself as I'm forming my character's story. I like to keep all of my facts in a book. This book has been home to, I think, 6 different characters. I have a LARP character in here that I played. I have a druid. I have a monk. I have a cleric. I have a vampire. I have a Star Trek character, a Star Wars character, a werewolf character from another LARP that I play, and I have a druid. I have a paladin. So I have a lot of, and I keep player notes in here, character notes. So basically, I usually start with who my character is in terms of background. So now that I've asked the question about, okay, so what was my childhood like? Where was I from? Where was I born? That determines how old I am. Okay, second question I ask is, what is my life like now? So, what is my character's life? What is a typical day for this character that I'm created? What does she usually do in the run of a day? So, is she a rogue? Does she go look for entertainment, street performers, so she can pick pockets? Is she a wizard? Does she spend her day poring over books and kind of ignoring the general world at large? Is she a bard who's in taverns all day performing and trying to make a living? So the variety of what is your character's typical day kind of helps determine their personality. And that leads me to the next thing. What is their personality like? So kind of based on, so you know what their childhood was like, because we already covered that. You know what their daily life is like. So the last component, the third question, is what is their personality like? How do they interact with the world based on these two things? So kind of think about that a little bit. You don't have to write that bit down, but based on their childhood experience and based on their daily life, what sort of events or what sort of reactions will they have typically to certain stimuli? So if you're from a big family, maybe being a member of the party, you don't want to get lost in the shuffle like you do at home, so you tend to be very outspoken and outgoing, and you're oftentimes the voice of the party. Or maybe you're the oldest sibling from your childhood, and because of that, you were given responsibility for absolutely everything all of the time. So you are actually quiet. You kind of go with the flow and let the rest of the party decide because you don't want to be decision maker, because you have to be decision maker at home. So you want to take a different role. So how your character reacts to things, what kind of a person, are they shy? Are they outgoing? Somewhere in the middle? Do they like certain things? I know that some of the races in D&D, for example, you have to have obsessions. One of my fellow players, he was a tabaxi that was literally obsessed with cheese. Hilarious. We actually had a game session where everybody brought cheese, and we had like a live game session because every game we'd be talking about cheese. So we just decided, you know what, we're gonna have a potluck cheese party. Totally awesome. But yeah, so that's a good thing to do. So now that you've got those three across the board, the last question you ask is, what is my alignment? Most characters creation systems have an alignment system of some kind, whatever they call it. Decide basically where your character falls on a morality spectrum. I've found a lot of people tend to veer towards chaotic good or neutral good because it allows them kind of the most freedom in terms of decisions. I personally don't allow evil to be chosen as an alignment in my campaigns, simply because, unless everybody chooses it, simply because I find it to be too disruptive for a tabletop game. When the evil character is constantly fighting with the good characters, I don't find that dynamic to be enjoyable. If you do, fair enough, but it's not something that I find a lot of the players that I play with enjoy. So we try to have the party be a unit, a cohesive unit, so selection of alignment can be kind of important in that process. So that's alignment. So those are the four things that basically I wanted you to think about. So the first was childhood, their family, where they come from, etc., etc. The second is, what is their daily life like now? The third is their personality. How do they relate to the world now? And the fourth is, what is their alignment? So what is their moral center? Those are kind of my four basics on how to create a character and how to create a character backstory that's going to make you feel like your character is a bit of a whole person instead of just a cookie cutter of statistics. The second thing that I want to talk about is, now that we have our background, our personality, our childhood and stuff, that is when I take to the systems. So whatever stat system you're using, whatever, whether it's point buy, or you're playing Traveler, or you're playing Star Trek or Star Wars, or Palladium or Conan, any system, basically for me, once I have my character's story set, I then feel that I'm in a place where I can choose things that are going to mechanically serve that purpose. So if I'm the bard, or let's do something. If I decided at the beginning that I'm going to be the healer, and then I went in and I went through and I did my 4 questions checklist. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be healer, and I think I lived in a cabin in the woods because my dad was a ranger. So I spent a lot of time with animals, and I think that we're a bunch of gnomes because that seems fun. So I'm gonna be a gnome druid because I kind of want to do some spell casting and be the healer of the party, but also have some combat abilities. So I'm gonna be a druid. Okay, cool. Because that fills my niche for me. I think that I was also like an only child. So, and then I think right now my daily life is kind of go, scavenge, hunt, farm. Sometimes I go into town for market. So I live a solitary existence. I suspect this character is very calm, very restful. Maybe in the big cities she finds those to be a little overwhelming. So when I'm looking at like the skill options, so I would probably pick things that she would know how to do, like survival. Obviously, that would be boom. Animal handling, yep, that's something that she would totally be proficient in. Perception, maybe she's very observant because of the forest and the way things were. So yeah, I'm gonna select all of those dots on my sheet. So that's how basically I do that. And I do that a lot too with my spells so that my character feels like more than a bunch of statistics on a paper. She feels like a person. So I hope that helped you out, and that you enjoyed today's Adventure is Out There session on character building. And I hope you have a nice day. Remember, everybody, adventure is out there. Cheers.